Well, the market pumped yesterday on the news of a potential Ethereum spot ETF, and now we're kind of just sitting in a range waiting to see what will happen next. So what I want to focus on in this video, considering the alts have had quite a move, is I want to have a look at a few potential alts to buy for the long term. Now, these are not recommendations. I'm simply going through price action, but some pullback areas where I would consider a good area to buy should these levels hold. Before I do that, of course, we have to have a look at the big daddy. So we have to go over Bitcoin first. I'm just going to show you how the price action has played out since my last update. So let's get into that now. If you're new here, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. Be sure to smash that like button nice and early. It really does help me get videos around the internet. And also hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, because I really only do videos when there's actually something of importance to tell you. So you really want to be notified when I actually do post a video. Now let's get into the Bitcoin price action. Now you'll probably recognize this chart right here. If you've watched my previous videos, we were talking about this accumulation range, which we're essentially still in for Bitcoin because the top of the range is at about 73,800. And we have not actually broken that just yet. And we do know that we have major liquidity both sides of this range, but we were potentially watching for a 3-level drop within the accumulation range, which can go sideways or it can drop in levels. And at this point here, after the level 2 had played out, we were waiting to see if we were going to get a change in trend on a lower time frame, which is actually what ended up happening. And I'll talk about that in a second. Or if we didn't see that happen on the 4-hour time frame, then we would expect the third into this area of liquidity. Does that mean that this is not going to come? Not yet, because we still are in the accumulation range. So it could be a while before it gets there, or it may never get there, but it's still a potential to happen until we actually break out of the range top, retest it, and don't revisit it again. And this could take months. So this is certainly not a short-term idea. This is very, very long-term. But let's talk about what invalidated the 3rd level drop happening now. And that was on the 4-hour time frame. You may have remembered in my last update on this channel, I talked about there being 3 drops already on the 4-hour time frame. I have removed them now, but at the time that I had spoken to you, price was doing this right here. So it had broken the 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame with a green vector, and we were waiting for a retracement to recover some of that green vector, which we can see is what happened here when price consolidated. So that became our retest zone, and then eventually our 4-hour W formation. And this is what I said: if we happen to get a 4-hour W on the 4-hour time frame, you would not expect the daily drop 3 to happen, and that we may head up from there, which is where we are now. And we can see that there is definitely a rise here on the 4-hour time frame. We've got some consolidation, and this would be another. So this is a 2-level rise on the 4-hour time frame at this point in time, and it's brought us back into the previous trapped traders, which were trapped at the current all-time high. So what we would expect now, if we were going to get continuation, we would expect to have this little pullback that we're having now, but as long as it remains above the EMA and it maintains the market structure, meaning you still have higher highs and higher lows, then we may get the 3-level rise. So we may get 1 more rise, and that could take us potentially back to the range top. If it breaks it, I mean, that could send things parabolic. It just depends on sentiment at the time, but you would expect some sort of resistance at the range top, as naturally people will open shorts there. But the fact that the 4-hour time frame is still currently basically consolidating around the 10 EMA and well above the 20 EMA, that's still bullish. So on smaller time frames, you'd be looking for entries for long positions, unless they gave you a reason to believe that the micro trend is changing, and that may feed up into higher time frames. Okay, let's have a look at the 15-minute time frame to have a look at our peak formations. When I zoom out, I'm essentially looking for what was the highest point and the lowest point in the last, say, 3 to 5 days back. That's how I find my peak formations. So if I zoom out, this is the last 3 to 5 days. So I've got a peak formation here. That's the highest point price has gone so far. And I've got the peak formation low here. So this becomes the price action that I care about for the purpose of day trading. And that happens to show that this low was part of the false move week beginning, because this here was weekend price action. This little stop hunt here would have stopped out some traders, and this would have done the same. And then we moved into the rises. Now I can see here, when I zoom in on this, I can see that this was a clear rise here. this was a clear rise here, and this was one as well that finished with a stopping volume candle. This formation that followed that stopping volume candle is called a trapping volume formation. It can also be called a half Batman because there are no stop hunts in it. But essentially that is where you have the traders trapped in one stop hunt move, and then we don't return to that wick, but we just consolidate for an extended period of time. And that consolidation is where the market maker is building their contracts while keeping these traders in this wick trapped. And then once they've built their contracts, they move away. Now, to see a move like that after the 3 rises, that's usually a pretty clear reversal signal. However, in this whole entire formation, I believe that it formed another setup that is called a 33 trade, which I won't go into because it's quite complicated. But the point of the 33 trade is that it brings you back to the 200 EMA. So the target after this consolidation is a 200 EMA. And you can see here that's exactly where price went. So for Bitcoin, that particular trade as a day trader is done. And you have to do a whole new setup. Like you're starting fresh from here and you're just assessing the price action for what it is. So what I can see that has gone on the 15-minute time frame so far today is that we have held the 200 EMA here. We broke it but closed back above it here. That also set today's initial low of the day. And now we're between the 50 and the 200. When you're between those two zones without a clear entry, that's a no trade zone. So really what you'd be waiting for from now is we need to see the initial high or the initial low of the day break. Whichever one of those breaks will prove the new trend. Right now we're dancing exactly halfway on it, which is 50% Asia. Now this candle currently coming in looks like it wants to create some speed. That would be positive. So if it finished that way, if it finished still with speed and it could get above the 50 EMA and also 50% Asia, then retest it. Whether it retests it in the UK session or the US session doesn't matter. But if it retests it, that's where you would believe that we're going up from there. So that's what I would be looking for as a day trade next. And my target would be back into this area here and then reassess from there. So if that's what Bitcoin's doing, then on the other hand, if it cannot break that 50 EMA or it comes back under 50% of Asia, so 69,830 region, then you would expect that more drops are coming and this drop here would probably lead to further drops. So all I can really do for now is just decide what will make me pull the trigger on a long or a short position, which is what I've just explained to you. So now let's have a look at Ethereum. Ethereum actually gave a pretty typical retail pattern on this one where we had this move to the upside, we have consolidation to the downside, we were creating equal lows, we had lower highs, and it was above the 200 EMA. There was a lot of liquidity down below. So for me, it was a matter of, okay, I recognize that it's holding this level, but once it got to this 50 EMA, I was waiting to see if it would reject to come down and maybe I could get some lower Ethereum. It didn't do that. It ended up breaking through, but this is a typical retail pattern. And the thing is, when you have a fast breakout like this, eventually it will come back. It will come back to rebalance this zone because now there's a gap, but that doesn't mean it won't go up more before it comes back. So that's what we have to watch out for now. The daily candle currently has really not got much volume since. It would be a matter of, there was some good news that an ETF was looking like positive chance of being approved, and now probably everybody's waiting for actual confirmation of that to happen. On the 4-hour time frame, this was the setup that I had talked about. Didn't actually get this myself. I'm long on a coin futures contract on ETH, so I'm not really too worried about day trading it. And obviously also I hold ETH spot, so I don't mind if I miss long positions. I more want to get short positions because they act as a hedge against my spot holdings. But nevertheless, we can see that it did break out and it did come back into the area of interest. And if you had paid attention, then would have caught that breakout. Now we're just consolidating again. So there's really nothing exciting to talk about on the 4-hour time frame. This right here is the vector candle that it is consolidating at. And so we would expect this little break as it makes its way through that candle. Very positive sign about ETH is it's still above the 10 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. I would not expect a pullback unless it at the very least started to break below that, but if it keeps holding on to it, it may just consolidate here and then go for a next level up. So I would not be trying to short ETH to get short positions on this pullback. I wouldn't do that. I would spend my attention letting pullbacks happen and look for EMA to hold as a retest level, because any of these EMAs could end up being your retest level. Now, I've just drawn on the current liquidations from 𝗖𝗵𝗃𝗵, and yeah, you can see here that there's a lot down here. So that means a lot of people got the breakout, which is probably quite good. But if we did pull back, there's a level here at about 36.74 that they could take before moving up. And then the next major one is about 34.21. But there's a lot of liquidity up here. So this shows us that people are trying to short in this zone. And that might actually be a mistake because it's really not too far from the current price. And it really won't take much for the market maker to just push it up there, take that liquidity out, and then not give us our pullback until after they've taken it. So yeah, I really do not think shorting is the best idea based on what I'm looking at right now. I would wait for price to actually break and retest EMAs before even thinking about shorting. But the better play is going to probably be pullbacks or consolidation, and look for stop hunting consolidation to grab a long position for the next move out. Now, when it comes to altcoins, Link is showing a potential good sign for a change in trend. I know people are over Link and it doesn't excite them anymore, but the price action is looking not too bad. The reason I say that is we held this 800 EMA on the daily time frame for quite some time. We had a very big push out to the upside from that, and now what we would be waiting for is a 200 or 50 EMA retest. So if we actually get a successful retest there, then that will prove a new trend. So that's what you'd be looking for, is for price to come back a little bit, hold around these EMAs on the daily time frame. And if it does, then that could be a good buying opportunity for people who want Link to be part of their portfolio. But it's not a guarantee that we're going to hold there. You don't know until you get there. But this is an area that I would be eyeing off and see how the price reacts if it does come back to those EMAs. And Solana is another one too. So it did have an M formation on the daily time frame. It did drop through, but it seems to have recovered very quickly. Again, it held above the 200 EMA. It broke through the 50 with volume, and now we have to wait and see if it comes back also for a retest. And I know a lot of people are hesitant to buy Solana at such high prices, but it might be all that you get, you know? So again, providing it holds this, I'm really not all that confident right now, to be honest, in buying altcoins for the long term, because I just don't think the attention is on them yet. So I know people always want altcoin setups, but the attention just isn't there yet. And you end up making more money just in Bitcoin and Ethereum, but for some reason that never seems to sink in. So let's have a look at Solana versus Bitcoin to see which is the better investment right now. So this is the last time we've looked at it, and it looks like this W has played out on the daily time frame. So we did get a pullback into around the 200 EMA, created a W, and we've bounced out. Now again, as long as it holds above that 50 EMA, then Solana would be the better investment over Bitcoin, because if it came back, held the 50 EMA, then we would expect the next move to the upside. So before doing anything, just give it a few days, because this is the daily time frame. So give it a few days, see if it holds that level, then you'll know it's worth investing in Solana. But if it breaks the 50 EMA, you're better off just sticking with Bitcoin. Let's compare Solana to Ethereum. So when we look at it currently, like, you know, it's been in an uptrend all this time. So far, well, not all this time, but majority of this time it's been in an uptrend against Ethereum. So Solana has been the better investment. However, it seems to have peaked at a level here, and we now are having a little bit of a sell-off. So that could change soon. The trend hasn't changed on it, however. So right now it's a 50-50 as to which one is the better investment, but you'd be looking for a trend change to decide that Ethereum is now the better investment. So what would have to happen with this is price would have to come up to create a lower high, then break down to the 200, another lower high, break down further. So if you got something like that, a lower high, and we could not recover this red vector here, then Ethereum becomes the better investment over Solana. However, if Solana reclaims the 50 EMA, then it's essentially a higher low still. So we would be waiting for it to break its high next, in which case Solana would remain the better investment. Now, if you're looking for somewhere to trade these things on, check out Bitgenyx. You can spot and leverage trade on Bitgenyx. There is no KYC and no need for a VPN. So the link is in the description down below, and it gets you a whopping 25% trading fee discount, as well as access to our Discord, where we do trade setups for you, and you can learn our methods along with the rest of the community.